Football is known as the beautiful game, but sometimes things get ugly. Not all teammates, opponents, and managers see eye to eye. Some of them can't stand the sight of each other. Here are 15 of the most famous footballers who have been involved in fights. John Terry versus Wayne Bridge. Wayne Bridge spent 5.5 years playing alongside Terry at Chelsea. The two defenders won a Premier League title and FA Cup together, and they seemed to have a good relationship. In January 2010, the football world was shaken by allegations that Terry had slept with Bridges' ex-girlfriend, Vanessa Parenchal. Terry tried to keep the story out of the papers, but he was overruled by the courts. Terry and Bridge soon came face to face when Chelsea played Man City. In the pre-game handshake, Bridge walked straight past his old friend, refusing to acknowledge him. Terry was stripped of the England captaincy and criticized by many people within the game. Bridge was so disgusted with Terry's behavior that he retired from international football because he couldn't bear the thought of sharing a dressing room with him. Number 2, Roy Keane versus Patrick Vieira. These days, Roy Keane earns a living as an entertaining TV pundit. Keane often gets angry while commenting on matches, and nothing winds him up more than seeing rival players hugging each other in the tunnel. When football fans of a certain age hear the words Roy Keane and tunnel, only one thing comes to mind. In 2005, the Man United captain had a huge bust-up with Patrick Vieira in the Highbury tunnel. Keane accused the Arsenal skipper of picking on Gary Neville. "I'll see you out there." An angry Keane shouted at Vieira. That was one of many clashes between the two men. They were both natural leaders and warriors on the pitch. They'd do anything for their clubs, including fighting with each other. You wouldn't want to get on the wrong side of Keane or Vieira. You know, they don't make Premier League captains like these two anymore. Number 3, Maxi Lopez versus Mauro Icardi. Well, just like John Terry and Wayne Bridge, a woman was at the center of this beef, and this one got really messy. Maxi Lopez and Mauro Icardi were quite close when they played together at Sampdoria. Well, they were until Icardi took a liking to Lopez's wife, Wanda Nara, who was also the mother of his 3 kids. Icardi had an affair with Nara, and the pair got married in 2014. Icardi even got the names of Lopez's kids tattooed on his arm. When Lopez next played against Icardi, he refused to shake the hand of his former friend. And let's be honest, who can blame him? Number 4, Didier Zokora versus Emre Belözoğlu. They say revenge is a dish best served cold. Didier Zokora certainly thinks so. He was happy to bide his time before getting his own back on Emre Belözoğlu. The bad blood started in April 2012, when the two players had a fierce argument on the pitch. During that row, Emre racially abused Zokora. The Ivorian was obviously very upset and angry, but he waited until the next time Trabzonspor faced Fenerbahce before getting his own back. Emre was on the receiving end of some very strong tackles during the game. At first, Zakul had let his teammates do the work, and then late in the game, he booted Emery right where it hurts. You could say Zokora literally tried to kick racism out of football. He got a yellow card for his troubles, but it was probably worth it. Number 5, Lionel Messi versus Cristiano Ronaldo. Okay, beef may be the wrong word for this one, but the rivalry between Messi and Ronaldo has defined football for years. Forget which one you prefer. For a moment, we can all agree that Messi and Ronaldo are 2 of the GOATs. Their consistent brilliance is incredible, and we should appreciate them while they're both still around. The rivalry was at its most intense when Ronaldo was at Real Madrid. He wasn't just competing with Dor, but for La Liga and the Champions League too. It's inevitable that football's biggest superstars have sometimes rubbed each other up the wrong way. Messi and Ronaldo don't just have different styles on the pitch, they're also very different characters off it. The one with Cristiano Ronaldo was and is a special jewel, which will remain forever, Messi said in 2020. Number 6, Luis Suarez versus Patrice Evra. Everyone knows there's no love lost between Liverpool and Man United. These two clubs have been the best of enemies for decades. In 2011, 2 players added even more fuel to the fire. During a game at Anfield, Patrice Evra accused Luis Suarez of racially abusing him. Suarez denied it, and Liverpool's players wore T-shirts to support him. But Suarez was found guilty by the FA, which handed him an 8-match ban and a £40,000 when the two men met again at Old Trafford. Suarez refused to shake Evra's hand. After Man United's victory, Evra celebrated wildly in front of Suarez and the home fans. Number 7. Kieran Dyer versus Lee Bowyer. There have been loads of examples of opponents scrapping on the pitch, but it's pretty rare to see two teammates doing it. Rare, but not unheard of. Tensions were running high when Newcastle were losing 3-0 to Aston Villa. In 2005, when Lee Bowyer accused Kieran Dyer of deliberately not passing to him, all hell broke loose. In front of 52,000 Newcastle fans, Bauer and Dyer came to blows. As Villa players tried to break it up, both players were sent off, leaving Newcastle down to 8 men. After Stephen Taylor's earlier red card, Graham Sounest, the Newcastle manager offered to fight both Bowie and Dyer in the dressing room afterwards. Number 8. Zlatan Ibrahimovic versus Pep Guardiola. Barcelona may have won the treble in 2009, but Pep Guardiola wanted to spice things up a bit the following season. Out went Samuel Eto'o, and in came Zlatan Ibrahimovic. It was a big mistake. Zlatan scored goals, but he wasn't a natural fit for Barca's ticket hacker style. And he definitely didn't see eye to eye with Guardiola. You bought a Ferrari, but you drove it like a Ferrari. Ibrahimovic told his manager, after one row he shouted at Guardiola, "You have no balls." It wasn't a surprise when Zlatan left Barcelona after just one season. Ibrahimovic continued to take shots at Guardiola, though. He later called him a spineless coward and said he much preferred playing for Jose Mourinho. Number 9, Arsene Wenger versus Alex Ferguson. This one was a footballing beef for ages. In Arsenal's corner was Arsene Wenger. In Man United's corner was Alex Ferguson. In the late 90s and early 2000s, these two legendary managers couldn't hide their contempt for each other. Both men were fierce competitors, so it was only natural that they clashed. Ferguson had dominated the Premier League until Wenger came along and started winning trophies at Arsenal. The managers regularly bad-mouthed each other in the press. When Ferguson claimed United were better than Arsenal, despite the Gunners winning the 2002 title, Wenger replied, "Everyone thinks they have the prettiest wife at home." Fergie had the last laugh, though. He won 13 Premier Leagues to Wenger's 3. The rivalry cooled down towards the end, but in its heyday, this was a big beef between two managerial giants. Number 10, Aaron Ramsey versus Ryan Shawcross. Aaron Ramsey's had a great career. He played for two huge clubs in Arsenal and Juventus, and won trophies in both England and Italy. But when he was just 19, there were fears that Ramsey's career might be over already. Playing for Arsenal against Stoke, Ramsey was the victim of a horror challenge by Ryan Shawcross that left him with a broken leg in 2 places. Shawcross was sent off and left the field in tears. He didn't mean to hurt Ramsey, but it was a hideous tackle. "Spare me the articles tomorrow about how nice Ryan Shawcross is," Arsene Wenger said after the game. This started a mini rivalry between Arsenal and Stoke. Bizarrely, Stoke fans booed Ramsey for years afterwards. Number 11, Roy Keane versus Alan Shearer. It wouldn't be a list about senseless violence without an appearance from Roy Keane. Incredibly, in 2001, the Irishman managed to pick a fight with Alan Shearer, a man so boring that if he stood in front of paint drying on a wall, he'd blend in. Man United were away at Newcastle, and the Magpies had the lead, going into the last few minutes. As the ball went out for a United throw, Shearer tried to stop Keane taking it quickly, and the Red Devil skipper responded by chucking the ball at his head. Shearer gave Keanu some lip in response, and the United man went ballistic, shoving, swinging a punch, missing, and getting a red card for his trouble. And to this day, the men still hate each other, with Keane saying afterwards, "I was sent off for pushing it, but if you're gonna get sent off, you might as well punch him properly." Number 12, Ruud van Nistelrooy versus Arsenal. Man United vs Arsenal has long been a tasty fixture, but the 2003 edition, christened the Battle of Old Trafford, was an especially dirty affair. United committed 13 fouls and Arsenal 18, with 8 yellow cards handed out, 2 of them to Patrick Vieira, who was sent off in the 80th minute for a kick at Van Nistelrooy, who had bundled the Frenchman to the ground. The score was 0-0, but in the final minute, Forlan won a penalty, and Van Nistelrooy stepped forward. He thundered his effort onto the bar and was mobbed by celebrating Arsenal players, receiving a couple of meaty slaps as the final whistle went. Both sides had a lot of tough characters, Oh, and Cristiano Ronaldo was also there, so a full-on scrap was only narrowly averted. In the aftermath, Laurent, Martin Keown, Vieira, and Ray Parlour were banned for a combined 9 games. However, the Gunners had the last laugh, as the draw enabled them to go an entire season, unbeaten. Number 13. Totti versus Balotelli Francesco. Totti has a reputation as one of football's gentlemen, so it was going to take someone special to tempt him into a scrap. And Mario Balotelli is pretty special, over the years managing to piss off Jose Mourinho, Roberto Mancini, and basically everyone in Milan and Manchester. In 2010, Inter Milan and Roma faced each other in the Coppa Italia final. The game was bad-tempered, and when Totti came on at halftime, Balotelli told him, "You're finished, Grandad," continuing to insult him for the rest of the match. The gladiator, true to his name, booted the young forward as hard as he could and received his marching orders as Inter won 1-0. Balotelli went on to accuse Totti of racism, which the Roma skipper denied, though he said the media outcry over his conduct had almost led to him retiring. Mario, who by this time was being publicly criticized by his teammates, left for Man City just 3 months later. Number 14. David Batty vs. Graeme Lasso. Number 14 involved 2 forgettable names for any fight between players on the same side. In 1995, the world was upside down, as Blackburn Rovers were the Premier League holders and were in the Champions League, where they lined up against Spartak Moscow. 4 minutes into the game in Russia, Batty gained possession in midfield, but Lasso tried to take the ball off him, clattering into his teammate and giving a throw-in away to Spartak. Batty, incensed, ran over to give the defender a bollock-in, and Lasso responded with a punch to Batty's throat. The incident was made even funnier by the fact that Lasso broke his hand in the attack, while both men received a dressing down from their skipper, the famously calm and sensible Tim Sherwood. Number 15. Barton versus the world. The last day of the 2011-12 season was a great day for football. There was relegation intrigue, a battle for European places, and City pinching the Premier League title from underneath United's noses. But often forgotten is Joey Barton's contribution. QPR thought they needed a draw against Man City to stay up, but Barton still couldn't control his temper and was sent off on Friday. 55 minutes for a tangle with Carlos Tevez. Never want to go quietly, the Scouser kicked Aguero and nutted Vincent Kompany before being dragged off the field trying to fight Belly along the way. QPR took a 2-1 lead minutes later, but with a man advantage, City racked up 44 shots with goalkeeper Paddy Kenny making an amazing 13 saves before eventually conceding again. In the end, though, both clubs celebrated as Bolton failed to win and were relegated instead. Barton was eventually sent out to Marseille on loan. Do let us know in the comments section if you're a fan of him. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up as well. Also, hit the subscribe button below and turn on notifications to get more interesting clips. We'll catch you next time.